The floor was cold against my cheek. I didn't remember falling. I just remembered his hand, my son's hand, against my shoulder, the shove, the way my body folded like paper, the sound my hip made when it hit the marble, the silence that followed. Not the impact. The silence. Because Elias didn't apologize. He didn't gasp or rush toward me or say, "Mom, oh God, Mom, I'm sorry." He just stood there, chest heaving, eyes dark with the kind of rage I'd seen before. 26 years before. In a different man's face. My billionaire son laid a hand on me. And in that moment, everything I'd built, every sacrifice, every lie I'd told myself about how different he was, it all shattered. Hey, beautiful souls. If you're watching from anywhere in the world right now, drop a comment and tell me where you are. I need to know I'm not alone in this. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. This story, it's not easy to tell. But I need you here with me. I didn't move from the floor right away. I stayed there, my breath fogging against the polished stone, listening to his footsteps retreat upstairs. Listening to his door slam. The house swallowed the sound whole, the way it always did. This house. 15,000 square feet of steel and glass and emptiness. Elias bought it for me 3 years ago. "You deserve the best, Mom," he'd said, all charm and camera-ready smiles at the ribbon cutting. The press loved it. Billionaire tech mogul surprises mother with oceanfront mansion. What they didn't know, what no one knew, was that I never asked for it. I asked for time. I asked for him to come home for Christmas. I asked if he remembered the apartment we used to share, the one where I'd sing him to sleep because we couldn't afford to fix the heater. He bought me a mansion instead. And then he moved in. Just for a few months, Mom. The penthouse is under renovation. That was 8 months ago. I pulled myself up slowly, my hands shaking. The storm outside was still raging, rain lashing the windows like it wanted in. Or maybe it wanted me out. I pressed my fingertips to my shoulder where he'd pushed me. No bruise yet. But there would be. There always was. Just not from him. Never from him. Until tonight. I walked to the kitchen on autopilot, my body remembering the motions even though my mind was somewhere else. Somewhere 26 years back. A different kitchen. A different man standing over me. A different version of myself, younger and more breakable, folding under the weight of words that cut deeper than fists. "You're nothing without me, Marina. You think you can leave? With what? You have nothing. That baby you're carrying? He'll grow up knowing what a failure his mother is." But I did leave. I took Elias, barely 2 years old, and I ran. I worked 3 jobs. I lived in places where the locks didn't work and the heat didn't reach our bedroom. I fed him first, always. I taught him to dream big, to be strong, to never let anyone make him feel small. I raised him to be nothing like his father. And somehow I failed. The night blurred after that. I sat at the kitchen island, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. The woman staring back looked older than 52. She looked tired, worn down to the bone. I thought about the argument. How it started over something so small, a business deal, some merger Elias was pushing through that would gut a competitor, put 300 people out of work. I'd asked him gently if there was another way. "Stay out of it, Mom. You don't understand how this works." "I understand people, Elias. I understand what it's like to lose everything." "Yeah? And look where that got you." The words were sharp, designed to wound. But I pushed back. I told him he was being cruel. That power was changing him. That I didn't recognize him anymore. That's when his face shifted. When he stepped closer. When his voice dropped to something cold and unfamiliar. "You don't recognize me? You made me, Mom. Every ruthless bone in my body you put there. You told me to be strong. To win. To never let anyone take what's mine. So don't stand there and act shocked when I actually do it." "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" "Huh." He grabbed my arm. I pulled back. He shoved. And I fell. By 3 a.m., I'd made my decision. By 4 a.m., I'd unlocked the safe in my closet and pulled out the envelope I swore I'd never open again. By 5 a.m., I was making calls. And by sunrise, I was in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. My hands didn't shake as I whisked the eggs. They didn't tremble as I sliced the avocado, toasted the bread, arranged everything on his favorite plate, the one with the thin gold rim he bought in Barcelona. I moved like a woman with purpose. like a woman who'd finally remembered who she used to be. Because here's the thing about silence, it only protects the people who benefit from it. And I was done protecting him from the truth. I heard his footsteps on the stairs at 7:15, right on schedule. Elias Stratton was nothing if not punctual. He appeared in the doorway, dressed in his usual armor, Tom Ford suit, tie perfectly knotted, hair still damp from the shower. He looked like he'd slept well. I hadn't slept at all. He paused when he saw me. I watched the calculation flicker behind his eyes. The quick assessment. Is she going to cry? Yell? Pretend it didn't happen? I did none of those things. I smiled. Good morning, sweetheart. I made your favorite. He blinked. Uncertain now. Mom. Sit down, Elias. It wasn't a request. He sat. I placed the plate in front of him with the same care I'd used every morning of his childhood. Then I sat across from him, hands folded, and watched him stare at the food like it might be poisoned. We need to talk, I said softly. Look, about last night. We need to talk, I repeated, and this time my voice carried the weight of every year, every sacrifice, every silent scream I'd swallowed. And for once, you're going to listen. His jaw tightened. That Stratton jaw. His father's jaw. I reached into the pocket of my cardigan and pulled out the envelope. 26 years old. Edges worn. Sealed with secrets he never knew existed. I placed it on the table between us. Do you know what this is? He stared at it. No. This, I said, my voice steady, is the real reason I left your father. The reason we had nothing. The reason I worked myself to the bone to give you a life. I paused, letting the word settle. And this is the insurance policy I took out the day you were born. The one thing I swore I'd never use unless I absolutely had to. His eyes snapped to mine. What are you talking about? I leaned forward, and for the first time in years, maybe ever, I let him see the steel underneath the softness. I'm talking about the truth, Elias. About your father. About his family. About the empire you think you built all on your own. His face went pale. I'm talking about the fact that the Stratton name comes with chains. And if you don't change, if you keep turning into him, those chains will destroy you. Mom, you're not making sense. I'm making perfect sense. I slid the envelope toward him. Open it. He didn't move. Open it or I will. Slowly, his hand reached out. He broke the seal. Pulled out the documents inside. And as his eyes scanned the first page, I watched the color drain completely from his face. The document trembled in Elias's hands. I watched his eyes move across the page left to right, top to bottom, and I could pinpoint the exact moment he reached the part that mattered. His pupils dilated. His breathing changed. This is a birth certificate, he said slowly. Yes. But the name. This says Elias Thornton Vandermeer. That's right. His eyes snapped up to mine, confusion and something darker swimming beneath the surface. Who the hell is Vandermeer? You told me my father's name was Stratton. Robert Stratton. I took a breath, steady and measured. 26 years I'd been preparing for this moment. 26 years of rehearsing these words in the shower, in the car, in the dead of night when sleep wouldn't come. Robert Stratton was what he called himself when I met him, I said. But his real name, his legal name, is Robert Vandermeer. Heir to the Vandermeer shipping fortune. You've heard of them. Of course he had. Everyone had. The Vandermeer family controlled half the shipping lanes in the Northern Hemisphere. Old money. The kind that didn't just open doors, it owned the buildings the doors were attached to. Elias set the paper down like it might burn him. You're lying. I've never lied to you, sweetheart. I just didn't tell you everything. That's the same damn thing. His voice cracked on the last word, and for just a second, I saw the boy he used to be. The one who'd crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. The one who'd bring me dandelions and call them flowers. Why? He whispered. Why would you keep this from me? I stood up, walked to the window. The storm had passed, leaving the ocean calm and glittering in the early light. Deceptively peaceful. Because the Vandermeer family doesn't just have money, Elias. They have rules. Expectations. And when I got pregnant with you, I became a problem. I told him then. Everything. How I met Robert at a charity gala where I was serving champagne, 24 years old and working 4 jobs to pay for night classes. How he pursued me with the kind of intensity that felt like love, but was really just obsession. How he kept his last name secret for months, telling me he wanted me to love him, not his family's fortune. By the time I learned the truth, I was already pregnant. His family gave me two options, I said, my voice flat. Terminate the pregnancy and sign an NDA for $2 million. Or disappear, keep you, and never speak the Vandermeer name again. Elias was silent. I chose you. Obviously. And my father just let you go? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Your father was relieved. He was already engaged to someone appropriate. Someone from their world. The last thing he needed was a cocktail waitress and a bastard child complicating his inheritance. Jesus Christ, Mom. He gave me $50,000. Called it severance. His mother watched me sign papers promising I'd never contact them, never claim you were a Vandermeer, never ask for anything. I turned to face him. And I kept that promise. For 26 years. So why tell me now? The question hung between us. I moved back to the table, pulled out another document from the envelope. This one was newer. Printed last night at 4:47 a.m. Because 3 months ago, your business partner, Julian Cross, approached me. Elias went very still. What? He showed up at my pottery class. Introduced himself. Said he'd done some research into your background and discovered some interesting inconsistencies. That son of a... He knows Elias. He knows you're Robert Vandermeer's biological son. And he's planning to use it. Drop a comment if you're following along, this is about to get wild. I watched Elias process this. Julian Cross was his business partner, his college roommate, the godfather to the empire they'd built together. Quantum Edge Technologies. Valued at $8.3 billion last quarter. Use it how? Elias asked carefully. He wants to leverage your connection to the Vandermeer family to facilitate a merger. He thinks if he can prove your bloodline, he can force a meeting with the Vandermeer board, get them to back a shipping tech integration deal worth $30 billion. Elias finished, his face ashen. The Skyfreight merger. He's been pushing it for months. I kept saying it was too aggressive, too risky. It's not about risk. It's about control. And Julian doesn't care if exposing your parentage destroys you in the process. He just wants the deal. Elias stood abruptly, pacing. How did he find out? I've never even. DNA testing services. Ancestry sites. Your father has 3 legitimate children now. One of them used a genealogy service for fun. You used one 2 years ago on a whim, remember? You told me about it at Christmas. His face confirmed it. The algorithm matched you as a half-sibling. Julian has access to everything, Elias. Your accounts, your passwords. You trusted him. I trusted you. He whirled on me. You should have told me. Years ago. I had a right to know. And there it was. The anger I'd been waiting for. You're right, I said quietly. You did. And I failed you by staying silent. The same way I failed you by not seeing what you were becoming. What's that supposed to mean? It means that last night, when you put your hands on me, you became him. You became Robert. And I cannot watch you turn into the man who destroyed me. The words landed like physical blows. Mom, I didn't mean to. But you did. I kept my voice gentle. Firm. And unless something changes, you'll do it again. To me. To someone else. Because that's what power does when there's no accountability. He sank back into his chair, head in his hands. I don't know how to fix this, he whispered. I do. I pulled out the third document. The one I'd spent 3 hours drafting with my lawyer, Rebecca Chin, at 5 a.m. This is a petition for emancipation of assets and public accountability, I said. Effective immediately, I'm placing 30% of my shares in Quantum Edge, the ones you signed over to me for tax purposes 3 years ago, into an ethical oversight trust. His head jerked up. What? You gave me those shares when you went public. Said it was to protect me. But we both know it was to protect you from hostile takeovers. Those shares give me voting power. You can't. I already did. Rebecca filed the papers an hour ago. The trust is controlled by a board of 3 people, me, Dr. Sarah Whitmore from the Ethics and Tech Foundation, and Father Michael Corleone from St. Catherine's Community Outreach. You're hijacking my company? I'm saving your soul. I leaned forward, my voice steel wrapped in velvet. This board will review every major decision you make. Every merger. Every acquisition. If it hurts people, if it prioritizes profit over humanity, we vote it down. And if you try to fight me on this, I go public with everything. The Vandermeer connection. Julian's blackmail. And what you did to me last night. The color drained from his face. You wouldn't. Try me. Silence filled the kitchen. Outside, I heard seagulls calling. The ordinary sounds of morning. Why? Elias finally asked, his voice broken. If you hate me this much, why not just walk away? And there it was. The question underneath all the others. I reached across the table and took his hand. He flinched but didn't pull away. Because I don't hate you, sweetheart. I love you more than my own life. And that's exactly why I can't let you become him. Tears were sliding down his face now. I loved your father once, I continued softly. I thought I could fix him. Thought love would be enough. But it wasn't. And by the time I realized that, I'd lost myself. I won't watch you lose yourself the same way. I'm not like him, he choked out. Not yet. But you're standing at the edge, baby. And I'm pulling you back. Whether you like it or not. He broke then. Completely. Shoulders shaking, face in his hands, sobs tearing out of him like they'd been buried for years. I stood, moved around the table, and wrapped my arms around him the way I used to when he was small. I've got you, I whispered. I've always got you. The moment shattered at 8:47 a.m. Elias was still in my arms, his sobs quieting into uneven breaths, when his phone exploded with notifications. Buzzing, chiming, vibrating across the marble countertop like something alive and angry. He pulled away, wiping his face with the back of his hand. The businessman was already reassembling behind his eyes, walls going up, vulnerability retreating. Ignore it, I said. But he was already reaching for it. Already scanning the screen. And I watched his expression shift from raw to rigid to something I didn't recognize at all. What is it? He didn't answer. Just turned the phone toward me. The headline filled the screen. Breaking. Quantum Edge co-founder Julian Cross announces emergency board meeting, claims evidence of foundational fraud in company origins. My blood went cold. He moved faster than I thought, I whispered. Elias was already dialing. Julian, pick up, you backstabbing piece of. The call went to voicemail. He threw the phone across the kitchen. It hit the refrigerator and clattered to the floor, screen cracked but still glowing with notifications. He's trying to push me out, Elias said, his voice deadly calm. He's using the Vandermeer connection to claim I committed fraud by hiding my identity during our partnership agreement. The original contracts had disclosure clauses about family connections that could create conflicts of interest, I finished. I know. I read them. He stared at me. You read our partnership contracts? I read everything, sweetheart. I've been preparing for this day for 3 months. My phone rang. Rebecca Chen's name flashed on the screen. Marina, are you watching the news? I'm living it. What do you know? Julian filed an emergency motion with the SEC 40 minutes ago. He's claiming Elias concealed material information about his identity and family connections, specifically, that being a Vandermeer heir creates undisclosed conflicts with 3 of Quantum Edge's major shipping contracts. That's absurd. Elias didn't even know he was a Vandermeer until an hour ago. Doesn't matter. Julian has documentation suggesting otherwise. Emails, texts, even a recorded conversation. My stomach dropped. What conversation? Rebecca paused. The one you had with Julian 3 months ago. At your pottery class. He recorded the whole thing, Marina. And he edited it to make it sound like Elias knew everything and was actively hiding it. I closed my eyes. My own words, twisted into weapons. What are our options? Right now? Damage control. I'm filing a counter-motion, but we need Elias at the Quantum Edge offices within the hour. If he doesn't show up to defend himself at this emergency meeting, the board will vote without him. He'll be there. I hung up and turned to my son. He was leaning against the counter, staring at nothing, his whole world crumbling around him. Elias. He didn't respond. Elias, look at me. His eyes met mine. Empty. Lost. You have a choice right now, I said firmly. You can fall apart or you can fight. Which is it going to be? A long pause. Then something shifted in his expression. The emptiness filled with fire. Fight, he said. Good. Get dressed. We're leaving in 10 minutes. The drive to Quantum Edge headquarters took 23 minutes. 23 minutes of Elias on the phone with his legal team, his PR team, his assistant. 23 minutes of me watching the city blur past the window, wondering how a morning that started with breakfast had become a battle for everything. The building rose before us like a monument to ambition, 40 floors of glass and steel, the Quantum Edge logo glowing at the top. Elias had designed it himself. Every angle, every detail, a reflection of his vision. Now it might not be his anymore. Security waved us through, but I noticed the looks. The whispers. News traveled fast in this world. The elevator ride to the 40th floor was silent. When the doors opened, Julian Cross was waiting. I'd met Julian exactly once before, the pottery class ambush. He was handsome in that polished, predatory way. Designer suit, perfect hair, smile that never reached his eyes. Elias, he said smoothly. Glad you could make it. And Mrs. Hale, or should I say, Mrs. Vandermeer? What a pleasant surprise. It's Miss Hale, I said coldly. And you know exactly why I'm here. To watch your son's empire crumble? How maternal. Elias stepped forward, his body coiled with barely contained rage. You think you can steal my company with doctored recordings and fabricated evidence? I think the truth has a way of coming out, old friend. And the truth is, you've been lying since the day we shook hands. I didn't know. Save it for the board. Julian checked his watch. Meeting starts in 5 minutes. Conference room B, try not to be late, it's your funeral after all. He walked away, whistling. I grabbed Elias's arm before he could follow. Don't let him bait you. That's what he wants. I'm going to destroy him. No, you're going to outthink him. There's a difference. Comment below. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? This is just the beginning. Conference room B was already full when we arrived. 12 board members seated around a massive oval table. Lawyers, assistants, people I didn't recognize. And at the head of the table, a woman I did. Victoria Sinclair, chairwoman of the board. 63 years old, silver hair pulled back in a severe bun, eyes like chips of ice. She'd been one of the original investors in Quantum Edge, a friend of Elias's, or so I'd thought. Her expression now suggested that friendship was over. Mr. Stratton, she said crisply. Please sit. We have much to discuss. Elias sat. I stood behind him, my hand on his shoulder. This is a closed meeting, Julian said from across the table. Family members aren't. I'm a shareholder, I interrupted. 30%. I have every right to be here. Victoria's eyebrow rose slightly. She's correct. Continue, Mr. Cross. Julian stood, buttoning his jacket with theatrical precision. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll keep this brief. For the past 8 years, Elias Stratton has represented himself as a self-made man. A rags-to-riches story. The son of a single mother who built an empire through sheer determination. He paused, letting the words hang. But that story is a lie. A murmur rippled through the room. Elias Stratton is actually Elias Vandermeer, the illegitimate son of Robert Vandermeer, heir to the Vandermeer shipping dynasty. A fact he has deliberately concealed from this board, from our partners, and from the SEC. I didn't know, Elias said, his voice steady but strained. Really? Then explain this. Julian pressed a button. A recording filled the room. My voice. Slightly distorted but unmistakable. He knows about the Vandermeer connection, planning to use it, leverage your bloodline. It was fragments. Pieces of what I'd said to Julian at the pottery class, spliced together to sound like I was revealing Elias's secret, not warning him about Julian's scheme. This recording clearly shows that Elias's mother knew about the Vandermeer connection and was actively helping him leverage it for business purposes, Julian said smugly. Which constitutes fraud, conflict of interest, and... That recording is doctored, I said loudly. Every head turned toward me. I'm sorry. Julian's smile faltered. I said it's doctored. Edited. Manipulated. I stepped forward, pulling my own phone from my purse. Because unlike you, Mr. Cross, I'm not stupid. When a stranger approaches me at a pottery class asking questions about my son, I record the conversation too. Julian's face went pale. Rebecca? I said. My lawyer stood from her seat near the door. I'd texted her during the elevator ride. She walked to the table and placed a small device in front of Victoria. This is the complete, unedited recording of the conversation between Ms. Hale and Mr. Cross from 3 months ago, Rebecca said. It clearly shows Mr. Cross approaching Ms. Hale with the intent to gather information he could use to blackmail or force out Mr. Stratton. Ms. Hale was not conspiring with her son. She was trying to protect him from Mr. Cross's manipulation. That's ridiculous, Julian sputtered. She's lying. Would you like me to play it? I asked, my voice ice cold. Would you like this entire board to hear you admit that you've been planning this takeover for months? That you hired a private investigator to dig into Elias's background? That you, and I'm quoting here, don't care if destroying him destroys the company, as long as I get the Vandermeer connection. Silence. Dead, ringing silence. Victoria Sinclair leaned back in her chair, studying Julian with undisguised contempt. Mr. Cross, she said slowly. I think you have some explaining to do. The meeting lasted another 2 hours. I won't bore you with the legal details, the motions, countermotions, accusations, and defenses. What matters is what happened at the end. Julian Cross was escorted from the building by security. His emergency motion was dismissed. And Elias retained control of Quantum Edge for now. But as we walked out of that conference room, I knew this wasn't over. Julian had resources, connections, and wounded animals were the most dangerous. Mom, Elias said quietly as we waited for the elevator. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This was just the first battle. I know. But still. He hesitated. Why did you record that conversation with Julian? 3 months ago, you didn't even know if Because I know men like him, I said simply. I was married to one. And I learned a long time ago that the only protection against snakes is anticipating their bite. The elevator doors opened. And standing inside, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit and silver tie, was a man I hadn't seen in 26 years. A man whose face I saw every time I looked at my son. Robert Vandermeer. Marina, he said, his voice exactly as I remembered, smooth, cultured, dangerous. It's been a long time. My heart stopped. Hello, Robert. Robert Vandermeer stepped out of the elevator like he owned it. Like he owned everything. 26 years had changed him. Silver threaded through his dark hair now. Lines carved around his eyes and mouth. But that presence, that suffocating, room-swallowing presence, was exactly the same. Elias stiffened beside me. He'd never seen his father. Not even a photograph. I'd made sure of that. You must be Elias, Robert said, extending his hand. I've heard impressive things. Elias didn't move. Who the hell are you? Robert's smile didn't waver. I think you know. I stepped between them. What are you doing here, Robert? Julian Cross contacted me. Apparently, my family situation has become relevant to some very lucrative business dealings. His eyes slid to Elias. I thought it was time I met my son. You don't have a son, I said coldly. You made that clear 26 years ago. People change, Marina. Snakes don't. We moved to an empty office, me, Elias, Robert, and Rebecca. I refused to have this conversation in public. Robert sat like a king holding court. I'll be direct. Julian approached me with a proposal. He wants Vandermeer Shipping to acquire Quantum Edge. With my support, he'd become CEO. In exchange, I'd get access to your technology for my fleet. And you said yes? Elias's voice was barely controlled. I said I'd consider it. But then I did some research. Robert leaned forward. You've built something remarkable, Elias. Something that rivals anything my legitimate children have accomplished. Your legitimate children, Elias repeated flatly. A poor choice of words. I apologize. You apologize? I laughed bitterly. For which part? Abandoning him? Paying me to disappear? Making me sign papers promising he'd never know you existed. Robert's jaw tightened. I was young. My family pressured me. I made mistakes. Mistakes don't cover it. Elias stood abruptly, pacing to the window. His reflection stared back at him, Robert's eyes, Robert's jaw, Robert's height. What do you actually want? He asked without turning around. I want to make amends. I want to know my son. And yes, I want a business relationship. But on your terms, not Julian's. You expect me to believe that? I expect you to verify it. Robert pulled a folder from his briefcase. This is everything I have on Julian Cross. His debts, his secrets, his offshore accounts. He's been embezzling from Quantum Edge for 2 years. I'm giving this to you freely. No strings. He placed it on the desk. Consider it a gesture of good faith. After Robert left, Elias didn't speak for a long time. Finally, is he telling the truth? About Julian. Rebecca was already scanning the documents. These look legitimate. Bank records, wire transfers. If this is real, Julian has stolen over $12 million from your company. And my father just handed it over? Your father wants something, I said quietly. Men like Robert always do. Maybe he's changed. Maybe. Or maybe he's playing a longer game. Elias turned to me, exhaustion and confusion written across his face. How am I supposed to know the difference? I took his hand. You learn. You watch. You don't trust too quickly. Is that what you did? With him? No. I trusted too quickly, and it nearly destroyed me. I squeezed his fingers. But I learned. And now I'm teaching you. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stood on the balcony of my empty mansion, watching the waves crash against the rocks below. Somewhere in the city, Robert Vandermeer was planning his next move. Somewhere, Julian Cross was plotting revenge. And somewhere in between, my son was caught in a web I'd spent 26 years trying to protect him from. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Miss Hale. A woman's voice. Young, nervous. Who is this? My name is Emma. Emma Vandermeer. I'm Robert's daughter. Your son's half-sister. My blood ran cold. How did you get this number? Please don't hang up. I need to warn you, my father isn't what he seems. The information he gave Elias about Julian? It's real, but it's not a gift. It's a trap. What kind of trap? If Elias uses those documents to take down Julian, he'll trigger a clause in their partnership agreement. A clause that makes the company vulnerable to hostile takeover. My father wrote that clause himself 15 years ago when he secretly invested in Julian's first startup. The pieces clicked into place. He's been planning this from the beginning. He's been planning everything from the beginning, Emma said. Including meeting you at that charity gala 27 years ago. You were never an accident, Ms. Hale. You were a target. I gripped the phone tighter. What do you mean I was a target? Emma's voice trembled. My father doesn't do anything randomly. 27 years ago, he was looking for someone specific. Someone smart but vulnerable. Someone who could give him a child outside the family's control. Why? Because Vandermeer inheritance law is complicated. Legitimate heirs are bound by trusts, restrictions, oversight. But an illegitimate child, raised separately, building his own empire. The realization hit me like ice water. He's been grooming Elias. From a distance. This whole time. The scholarship Elias got for college? My father funded it anonymously. The investor who gave him his first startup capital? One of my father's shell companies. Every major break Elias ever caught, my father was behind it. My legs gave out. I sank into a patio chair. Elias thinks he's self-made. He is talented, Emma said quickly. Brilliant, even. But my father made sure he succeeded. Made sure he became powerful enough to be useful. Useful for what? Control of Vandermeer's shipping. My father is dying, Ms. Hale. Pancreatic cancer. 6 months, maybe less. And he's terrified of what happens when he's gone. I called Elias at 2 a.m. He answered on the first ring. Mom? What's wrong? Don't use those documents against Julian. Not yet. Why? This is exactly what we need to. It's a trap. Your father said it. He's been manipulating your entire life. Silence. Come to my apartment, he finally said. Bring everything you have. By dawn, we'd spread every document across Elias's dining table. Emma had sent files, years of evidence showing Robert's hidden hand in Elias's success. The scholarship letters with redacted donor names. Investment records tracing back to Vandermeer subsidiaries. Even the recommendation that got Elias into Stanford, written by a professor on Robert's payroll. I thought I earned this, Elias whispered, staring at the papers. I thought I built this myself. You did. The talent is yours. The work is yours. But the opportunities weren't. I couldn't argue with that. Why? He looked at me with devastated eyes. Why would he do this? Because you're his insurance policy. His other children are controlled by the family trust. But you're free. Powerful. And now that he's dying, he needs you to protect his legacy. From what? From them. Emma arrived at noon. She was younger than I expected, 24, with Robert's dark eyes, but none of his coldness. She looked terrified. My siblings don't know I'm here, she said. If they find out, why are you helping us? Elias asked bluntly. Because my father destroyed my mother the same way he tried to destroy yours. She died thinking she was worthless, that she'd never been good enough. Emma's voice cracked. I won't let him do it to anyone else. What do your siblings want? The company. All of it. And they'll destroy anyone in their way, including you. So I'm caught between your father trying to use me and your siblings trying to eliminate me. Yes. Elias laughed bitterly. Perfect. The plan came together over cold coffee and colder fear. Emma had access to her father's private files. Proof that Robert had manipulated not just Elias, but dozens of others over the decades. Evidence of fraud, bribery, coercion. If we release this, Rebecca said carefully, Robert goes to prison. Vandermeer's shipping collapses. Your siblings lose everything. And Elias? I asked. He'd be cleared of any fraud allegations. His company would survive. But he'd be publicly exposed as a Vandermeer. His entire origin story becomes a lie. Elias stood at the window, watching the city below. I never wanted to be a Vandermeer, he said quietly. You're not, I replied. You're a Hale. You always have been. He turned to me, and for the first time in years, I saw my little boy looking back. What if I don't want to destroy him? What? What if there's another way? One that doesn't burn everything down? Emma stepped forward. What are you thinking? I'm thinking my father wants legacy. My siblings want money. Julian wants power. He paused. What if I give them all something but on my terms? The plan was simple. Too simple. Elias would meet with Robert, offer a partnership, quantum edge technology integrated with Vandermeer shipping, but with Elias retaining control. In exchange, Robert would get his legacy. His siblings would get dividends. Julian would get nothing. It fell apart in 48 hours. Robert agreed to the meeting. Neutral location, a private restaurant downtown. Just father and son. I begged Elias not to go alone. I have to do this myself, Mom. I need to look him in the eye. He's a manipulator. He'll twist everything. Then I'll untwist it. He kissed my forehead and left. That was 7 p.m. By 9 p.m., he wasn't answering his phone. By 10 p.m., I was pacing. By midnight, Rebecca called. Turn on the news. Now. The headline destroyed me. Breaking. Quantum Edge CEO Elias Stratton arrested for assault on billionaire Robert Vandermeer. The footage played on loop. Elias being led out of the restaurant in handcuffs. Robert in the background, holding a bloodied napkin to his face, looking every inch the victim. He attacked me, Robert told reporters, his voice trembling with rehearsed pain. My own son. I tried to reconcile and he just snapped. Lies. All lies. But the world believed him. I got to the police station at 1 a.m. They wouldn't let me see him. He's being processed, the officer said. Bail hearing tomorrow morning. This is a setup. Robert Vandermeer orchestrated this. Ma'am, we have witnesses. Security footage. Your son threw the first punch. That's impossible. But the officer's eyes told me it didn't matter what I believed. The bail hearing was a circus. Cameras everywhere. Robert's lawyers painted Elias as unstable, violent, a man who'd hidden his identity and attacked his own father when confronted with the truth. Bail was set at $5 million. I paid it without hesitation. 30% of my shares liquidated. When Elias finally walked out, he looked broken. I didn't touch him, Mom. I know. He provoked me. Said things about you, horrible things. I stood up to leave, and suddenly his security grabbed me. Someone hit him, smeared blood on my hands before I could react. It was staged. Everything was staged. His voice cracked. And now I've lost. The board is meeting tomorrow. They're going to vote me out. We'll fight. With what? I'm a fraud and an abuser now. Julian's already circling. Robert's playing victim. My own siblings released statements calling me dangerous. He pulled away from me. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am my father's son. Elias. I put my hands on you, Mom. Just like he would have. Maybe violence is in my blood. That's not. I need to be alone. He walked away. And this time, I couldn't follow. 2 days passed. Elias didn't answer my calls. Didn't respond to texts. His apartment building security said he'd given instructions not to let anyone up. The news cycle consumed him. Every outlet ran the story. Cellmate billionaire revealed as secret heir. Father-son reunion turns violent. Sources close to the family say Elias Stratton has a history of aggression. Lies built on lies built on lies. On the third day, Emma called. He's not eating. Not sleeping. The doorman says he hasn't left in days. How do you know this? I've been watching. I'm worried. Why do you care? A pause. Because he's my brother. And because I know what my father's destruction looks like. I've seen it before. Your mother. She stopped fighting. Stopped believing she was worth anything. And one day, Emma's voice broke. One day, she just didn't wake up. My heart stopped. I'll get him out. Whatever it takes. But getting to Elias meant getting through security. And Elias had made sure I couldn't. I tried everything. Called Rebecca. Called his assistant. Even tried bribing the doorman. Nothing worked. On the fourth night, I stood outside his building in the rain, staring up at his darkened window. Please, I whispered to no one. Please let me save him. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text, service entrance. Basement level. Door will be unlocked. Emma. I found him on the bathroom floor. Empty bottles scattered around him. Not alcohol, pills. Sleeping pills, anxiety medication, things I didn't recognize. Elias. He was breathing. Barely. I called 911 with shaking hands, cradling his head in my lap. Stay with me, I begged. Stay with me, baby. I can't lose you. I can't. His eyes fluttered open. Glazed. Distant. Mom? I'm here. I'm right here. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Don't apologize. Just stay. Please. Stay. The ambulance arrived in 7 minutes. Longest 7 minutes of my life. The hospital walls were too white. Too sterile. Too quiet. I sat beside Elias's bed for 3 days, watching machines breathe for him, watching monitors track his heartbeat like a fragile promise. The doctors called it acute medication toxicity. They pumped his stomach. Stabilized his vitals. Said he was lucky. Lucky. I wanted to scream. On the fourth day, he opened his eyes. Mom? I grabbed his hand, tears streaming down my face. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I didn't. I wasn't trying to. I know, sweetheart. I know. He stared at the ceiling. I just wanted everything to stop. The noise. The lies. The feeling that nothing I built was real. It was real. You are real. And you're still here. That's all that matters. He turned to me, eyes red-rimmed and exhausted. How'd I come back from this? One step at a time. Together. Emma visited that afternoon. She brought flowers, yellow tulips, bright against the gray room. I hope it's okay that I came. Elias studied her for a long moment. His half-sister. A stranger who'd risked everything to help him. Why? He asked quietly. Because family should mean something. Even broken family. Our family is more than broken. Then we rebuild it. Differently. She sat carefully on the edge of his bed. I'm not my father, Elias. And you're not him either. On day 5, Rebecca arrived with news. The tide is turning, she said, spreading documents across Elias's hospital tray. The security footage from the restaurant? It's been analyzed by independent experts. The timestamps don't match. Someone edited out the 90 seconds before the alleged assault. Can we prove Robert staged it? Better. We found the editor. Young tech guy Robert hired. He's scared and willing to talk. Hope flickered in Elias's eyes. First time in days. What does he know? Everything. The staged attack, the planted witnesses, the smear campaign. Robert paid over $2 million to destroy you in a week. Why? I offered him partnership. Rebecca hesitated. Because partnership wasn't enough. He wanted control. Complete control. And you, his illegitimate son, becoming his equal? That was never the plan. Emma filled in the remaining pieces that night. My father's cancer is worse than he admitted. 3 months now, not 6. His mind is fracturing. He's become obsessed with legacy, with control. He sees you as both his greatest achievement and his biggest threat. Achievement. He molded you from afar. Watched you succeed. In his twisted way, he's proud. But pride became fear. Fear that you'd surpass him. Fear that you'd expose him. So he decided to destroy me first. Yes. Elias closed his eyes. What about your siblings? They're circling like vultures. With father weakened and you discredited, they see opportunity. They're planning to merge Vandermeer Shipping with a competitor. Liquidate assets. Pocket billions. And the thousands of employees? Collateral damage. They don't care. Elias's jaw tightened. The old fire was returning. Then we stopped them. I watched my son transform over the next 48 hours. Not into the cold, ruthless man he'd been becoming. Something different. Someone tempered by pain, shaped by humility, driven by purpose beyond profit. He made calls. Gathered allies. reached out to board members who doubted Julian's narrative, spoke to journalists willing to investigate rather than sensationalize. And he apologized. To me. Properly. I've spent so long being afraid of weakness that I became the worst version of strength, he said, holding my hands. When I pushed you that night, I saw Dad in the mirror. And instead of facing that, I ran. I buried it. I became worse. You're facing it now. Because you didn't give up on me. Even when I gave up on myself. I pulled him close. That's what mothers do. The counterattack began on a Tuesday. Rebecca filed motions to dismiss all charges based on manipulated evidence. The tech editor gave a sworn statement. 3 witnesses recanted, admitting they'd been paid. Simultaneously, Emma leaked internal Vandermeer documents showing decades of corporate fraud, tax evasion, environmental violations, bribes to foreign officials. The media frenzy reversed overnight. Breaking, Robert Vandermeer accused of framing own son. Tech editor confesses to manipulating evidence in Stratton assault case. Vandermeer empire built on lies, leaked documents reveal. Robert's carefully constructed narrative crumbled. On day 8, I received an unexpected visitor. A woman my age. Elegant but tired. Eyes that had seen too much. Mrs. Hale? I'm Catherine Vandermeer. Robert's wife. I stiffened. What do you want? To thank you. Excuse me. She sat beside me in the hospital waiting room, hands folded. I've known about you for 26 years. Known about Elias. Robert thought I was oblivious, but wives always know. Then why? Why didn't I leave? She smiled bitterly. Fear. Comfort. The golden cage. Same reasons most women stay. What changed? Watching you fight. Watching you refuse to be silent. Her eyes glistened. You saved your son. Maybe now I can save my daughter. Emma? Robert discovered she's been helping you. He's threatening to disinherit her. Destroy her reputation. She's terrified, but won't stop. She's brave. She learned it from watching you. Catherine stood. Whatever you need to bring him down, I'll provide it. Bank accounts, passwords, recordings. Everything. Why? Because I'm done being silent too. That night, Elias was discharged. He walked out of the hospital into a wall of cameras and reporters. But instead of running, he stopped. Face them. I made mistakes, he said clearly. I lost my way. I hurt people I love, including my mother. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise. The cameras flashed. But I'm also not going to let lies define me. Or let powerful men escape accountability because they think money makes them untouchable. He looked directly into the lens. Robert Vandermeer tried to destroy me. He failed. And now, the truth comes out. All of it. The Vandermeer estate sat on 40 acres of manicured grounds. Iron gates. Stone walls. A fortress built to keep the world out and secrets in. I never thought I'd walk through those gates again. But 3 days after Elias's hospital release, that's exactly where we stood. Me, Elias, Emma, Rebecca, and Catherine Vandermeer, an unlikely army marching into the lion's den. Robert had requested the meeting. His lawyers claimed he wanted to discuss resolution. We knew it was a trap. We walked in anyway. The Great Hall hadn't changed in 26 years. Same marble floors. Same towering portraits of Vandermeer ancestors. Same suffocating wealth pressing down from every surface. Robert waited in his wheelchair now. The cancer had accelerated. He looked diminished, shrunken, a dying king clinging to his crumbling throne. But his eyes were still sharp. Still dangerous. Marina. He smiled thinly. You've aged well. You haven't. His smile flickered. Still that fire. I always admired it. You tried to extinguish it. You failed. Beside him stood his other children, twins, Marcus and Helena, 30 years old and hungry. They watched Elias like wolves sizing up competition. Let's dispense with pleasantries, Robert said. You've caused significant damage to my reputation. My company's stock has dropped 30%. Investigations are pending. You did that yourself, Elias replied calmly. We just showed the world. And what do you want? Money? Recognition? A place at the table? Justice. Robert laughed, a hollow, rattling sound. Justice. How naive. There's no justice, boy. Only power. Those who have it and those who don't. Then let's discuss power. Elias stepped forward, commanding the room in a way I'd never seen before. Not with arrogance. With authority earned through suffering. Here's what's going to happen, he said. You're going to sign a full confession admitting you staged the assault, manipulated evidence, and orchestrated a smear campaign against me. And why would I do that? Because if you don't, Catherine releases everything. Robert's eyes snapped to his wife. For the first time, fear flickered across his face. Catherine stepped forward, spine straight. 20 years of marriage, Robert. 20 years of watching you lie, cheat, manipulate. I documented everything. Insurance, I called it. Now it's leverage. You wouldn't dare. I already have. She held up her phone. One button. Every major news outlet. Every regulatory agency. Every law enforcement contact. Your entire empire exposed. You'll destroy yourself too. I'll survive. I always have. Helena lunged forward. Father, don't listen to them. We can fight this. Our lawyers. Your lawyers are abandoning ship, Rebecca interrupted coolly. 3 firms have already dropped you as clients. No one wants to be associated with what's coming. Marcus grabbed Elias's collar. You think you can walk in here and threaten us? You're nothing. A bastard nobody wanted. Elias didn't flinch. Let go. Or what? Or I show the board of directors the evidence that you and Helena have been embezzling from the family trust for 5 years. Marcus froze. $12 million, Elias continued calmly. Hidden accounts in the Caymans. Did you really think no one would find out? That's a lie. It's documented. Timestamped. Verified by 3 independent forensic accountants. Elias removed Marcus's hand from his collar. Emma provided the access. Catherine provided the context. And I provided the expertise to trace every stolen dollar. The twins looked at their father, panic rising. Robert's face was ashen. You've turned my own family against me. No, I said quietly. You did that yourself. Years ago. We just gave them permission to stop being afraid. The confession took 4 hours to negotiate. Robert fought every line. Every admission. Every consequence. But in the end, even dying men recognized checkmate. He signed. Full confession to staging the assault. Full acknowledgement that Elias had no prior knowledge of the Vandermeer connection. Full responsibility for the smear campaign and evidence manipulation. In exchange, we agreed not to release the most damaging materials, the evidence that could send him to prison for decades. He'd face civil penalties, not criminal ones. He'd lose control of Vandermeer shipping, but retain enough dignity to die at home. It wasn't perfect justice. But it was real. One more thing, Elias said as Robert signed the final page. What now? Julian Cross. Robert's jaw tightened. What about him? You funded him. Placed him in my company. Used him as your puppet. I have no idea what. Don't. Elias's voice was steel. We have the records. Every payment. Every instruction. Every secret meeting. Robert stared at his son, really looked at him, for what seemed like the first time. You're more like me than you know, he said softly. No. I'm more like her. Elias nodded toward me. And that's why I'm going to win. Julian Cross was arrested 2 days later. $12 million in embezzlement. Securities fraud. Conspiracy to commit corporate espionage. The federal charges alone would keep him locked up for 15 years. I watched the footage of him being led away in handcuffs, the same image that had haunted Elias just weeks before. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. But the real twist came a week later. Robert Vandermeer died on a Thursday morning. Quietly. In his sleep. 3 weeks earlier than the doctors predicted. His will was read that afternoon. Everyone expected the usual. Assets divided among legitimate heirs, control of the company split between Marcus and Helena, Emma receiving a modest trust fund for her disloyalty. That's not what happened. To my son, Elias Vandermeer Stratton, the lawyer read, I leave 45% of Vandermeer shipping and all associated holdings. The room exploded. Marcus screamed about contesting. Helena threatened lawsuits. Lawyers scrambled for phones. But the will was ironclad. Updated 3 days before Robert's death. Witnessed by doctors, notarized by 3 separate firms. Elias sat in stunned silence. There's a letter, the lawyer said, handing him an envelope. We read it together that night. Just the 2 of us. Robert's handwriting, shaky but legible. Elias. I spent my life building power and destroying people. Your mother was one of them. I convinced myself it was necessary, that softness was weakness, that love was liability. I was wrong. Watching you these past weeks, watching you fight for truth rather than conquest, watching you choose integrity over empire, I realized I'd succeeded in ways I never intended. You became the man I should have been. The company is yours. Not as a gift. As a responsibility. Do with it what I couldn't. Build something worth leaving behind. I am not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I am asking you to break the cycle I started. Be better than me. Be better than the Vandermeer name. Be your mother's son. Robert. Elias set the letter down, tears streaming silently. I don't know if I can forgive him. You don't have to, I said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But he changed. At the end. Maybe. Or maybe he finally saw himself clearly. I took his hand. Either way, what you do next is what matters. Not his regrets. Your choices. He nodded slowly. I want to do this right, Mom. The company. The legacy. All of it. Then you will. 6 months later, I stood on the balcony of a different house. Not the mansion Elias had bought me. I sold that 2 months after the dust settled. Too big. Too empty. Too many echoes of a life that no longer fit. This house was smaller. A cottage on the cliffs overlooking the ocean. 3 bedrooms, a garden I was learning to tend, and a pottery studio in the converted garage. It was mine. Really mine. Bought with money I'd earned, not given. And for the first time in 26 years, I felt at peace. Elias visited every Sunday. Not out of obligation. Not for appearances. Just to sit with me on the porch, drink coffee, and talk. About work. About life. About the father he was still processing and the man he was still becoming. The board approved the ethics committee, he said one morning, watching the waves crash below. Full oversight on all major acquisitions. Whistleblower protections. Environmental impact requirements. And they didn't fight you? Some did. I replaced them. He smiled slightly. Turns out owning 45% of a company gives you leverage. Using power for good. Who taught you that? Some stubborn woman who makes terrible pottery. I threw a napkin at his head. He laughed, a real laugh, warm and unguarded. I hadn't heard that sound in years. The company transformation wasn't easy. Vandermeer Shipping and Quantum Edge merged under Elias's leadership, becoming something new, Horizon Industries. A tech logistics hybrid focused on sustainable shipping, fair labor practices, and transparent governance. The business press was skeptical at first. Called it idealistic. Predicted failure. Within 4 months, stock prices doubled. It turned out people wanted to invest in companies that didn't destroy everything they touched. Who knew? We're not perfect, Elias admitted during one of our Sunday talks. There are still problems. Compromises I don't love. But we're trying. That's all anyone can do. Is it enough? I thought about that. About all the years I'd spent wondering if my choices were enough. If my sacrifices mattered. If the pain had purpose. Ask me in 20 years, I said. That's when you'll know. Emma became a permanent fixture in our lives. She'd left the Vandermeer estate after her father's death, cutting ties with Marcus and Helena entirely. They were still contesting the will, still fighting over scraps, still proving that money couldn't buy character. Emma wanted none of it. She moved into a small apartment in the city, enrolled in law school, and started volunteering at a domestic violence shelter on weekends. I want to help women like my mother, she told me once. Women who feel trapped. Who think they have no options. Your mother would be proud. You think so? I know so. She hugged me then, tight and trembling and full of the grief she was still learning to carry. I held her like I held Elias. Like she was mine too. Because in all the ways that mattered, she was. Catherine Vandermeer surprised everyone. After Robert's death, she didn't retreat into widow's grief or bitter isolation. She founded a nonprofit, the Vandermeer Foundation for Family Justice, dedicated to providing legal aid for abuse survivors and their children. She funded it with her divorce settlement. Every penny Robert had tried to use as a leash. He always said money was power, she told me during one of our monthly lunches. He was right. He just never understood that power can be given away as freely as it's hoarded. You've changed. I've woken up. She set down her wine glass. 28 years of sleep. It's disorienting being conscious. But I'm learning. We all are. The hardest conversation happened on a rainy Tuesday in March. Elias and I were in my pottery studio, both of us covered in clay, working on pieces that would probably end up in the reject pile. The radio played softly. Rain drummed against the windows. "I've been seeing a therapist," he said suddenly. I looked up. "Since when?" "3 months. After the hospital." He kept his eyes on the clay. "I didn't want to tell you until I knew I'd stick with it." "I'm glad you did. It's hard. Talking about everything. Dad. The pressure. That night when His hands stilled. "When I hurt you." "Elias. Let me finish." He finally met my eyes. "I've apologized before. But I don't think I really understood what I was apologizing for. It wasn't just the shove. It was everything leading up to it. The coldness. The dismissiveness. Treating you like an inconvenience instead of the woman who gave up everything for me." Tears blurred my vision. "I'm not going to become him, Mom. I refuse. And I know saying that isn't enough, that I have to prove it every day for the rest of my life. But I need you to know that I'm trying. Really trying. I know you are, sweetheart. Do you forgive me?" The question hung between us. Heavy. Honest. "I forgave you the moment you fell," I said softly. When you were lying in that hospital bed, I realized I'd rather have you broken and healing than strong and cruel." "That's not really an answer." "Yes, it is." I reached across and took his clay-covered hands. "Forgiveness isn't a moment, Elias. It's a process. And we're in it. Together. That's what matters." He nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks. "I love you, Mom. I love you too. Always. No matter what." Spring arrived with cherry blossoms and new beginnings. Emma graduated at the top of her law school class. Elias promoted his first female CEO at Horizon's European division. Catherine's foundation opened its 10th office. And I had my first pottery exhibition. Nothing fancy, just a local gallery, 30 pieces, wine and cheese for 50 guests. But as I stood in that room, surrounded by people admiring bowls and vases I'd made with my own hands, I felt something I hadn't felt in decades. Pride. Not in my son's achievements. Not in the reflected glory of his success. Pride in myself. In who I'd become. In the woman who'd survived and fought and refused to be silent. "Mom?" I turned. Elias stood in the doorway, holding a bouquet of yellow tulips, Emma's favorite, now ours too. "These are for you. From all of us." Behind him, Emma and Catherine appeared, along with Rebecca, and a few faces I didn't recognize, new friends from my pottery class, neighbors from the cliffs, people who'd become part of my life in this second chapter. "What's all this?" "We're celebrating," Emma said, grinning. "The exhibition just started." "We're not celebrating the exhibition," Elias interrupted. "We're celebrating you." He stepped forward, taking my hand. 26 years ago, you made an impossible choice. You chose me over safety. Over money. Over everything. And then you spent the next 2 decades making sure I never felt that sacrifice. That's what mothers do. No, that's what heroes do. His voice cracked slightly. And I spent too many years forgetting that. So tonight, we're remembering. And we're thanking you. Properly. Catherine raised her glass. To Marina. Who taught us all that silence isn't survival and that it's never too late to speak. To Marina, the room echoed. I laughed through tears. You're all ridiculous. Probably, Emma agreed. But we're your ridiculous family now. And you're stuck with us. Later that night, after the guests had gone and the gallery was quiet, I walked along the cliffs alone. The moon hung low over the water, silver and full. The waves whispered below like they were sharing secrets with the shore. I thought about Robert Vandermeer, dead and buried, his legacy transformed into something he never intended. I thought about the scared girl I'd been at 24, signing papers in a cold office, promising to disappear. I thought about Elias in that hospital bed. About the moment I almost lost him forever. And I thought about now. This moment. Standing on solid ground, surrounded by people who loved me, finally free of the silence that had defined so long. I did it, I whispered to the ocean. To myself. To whoever was listening. I actually did it. The waves didn't answer. They didn't need to. The peace in my chest was answer enough. 3 weeks later, Elias called with news. I'm seeing someone. I nearly dropped my coffee. What? Who? Since when? Her name is Clara. She runs a nonprofit that partners with Horizon on refugee resettlement. We met at a board meeting and… I don't know. She's different. Different how? She doesn't care about the money. Or the name. She actually yelled at me last week because I was being, and I'm quoting here, an emotionally unavailable workaholic with a savior complex. I burst out laughing. I like her already. Yeah. I could hear the smile in his voice. Me too. Bring her to Sunday brunch. Really? Really. It's time I met the woman brave enough to yell at my son. Clara was everything I'd hoped for. Sharp and warm and utterly unimpressed by Elias's billions. She challenged him in ways I'd never seen, pushed back on his ideas, called out his blind spots, loved him fiercely without letting him hide behind charm or achievement. Your mother is incredible, she told me during that first brunch, while Elias and Emma argued about something in the kitchen. Thank you. No, I mean it. The way you raised him, the values you instilled, it's why he's becoming the man he is. Not despite his past. Because of you. He did the work himself. With foundations you built. She touched my hand. I'm grateful. For you. For all of this. Welcome to the family, Clara. Her eyes glistened. I've never really had one before. You do now. 1 year after that stormy night in the kitchen, I woke to a quiet house and a full heart. The scars were still there, mine and Elias's both. They'd never fully disappear. But scars weren't just wounds. They were proof of survival. Evidence that we'd been broken and chosen to heal anyway. I made breakfast that morning. Eggs, toast, avocado, Elias's favorite. Set the table for 5, me, Elias, Clara, Emma, and Catherine. My family, rebuilt from wreckage. Imperfect and beautiful. At 9 a.m., they arrived. All of them. Laughing, arguing, filling my small cottage with noise and life and love. Elias kissed my cheek. Smells amazing, Mom. Sit down. Eat. You're too thin. I'm a billionaire. I think I can afford food. Then eat more of it. He laughed, and the sound was everything. After breakfast, we walked along the cliffs together. The 5 of us, linked arm in arm, watching the sun climb higher over the ocean. What are you thinking about? Elias asked quietly. That morning. A year ago. When I served you breakfast and changed everything. You didn't just serve breakfast. No. I served justice. I squeezed his arm. And I'd do it again. 1,000 times. Even knowing how hard it would get? Especially then. I looked at him, really looked at the man he'd become. Kind. Accountable. Human. Because this is where it led. And this is worth everything. He didn't respond with words. Just pulled me into a hug, holding on like he'd never let go. And in that moment, with the sun on my face and my family around me, I finally understood something I'd been chasing my whole life. Home wasn't a place. It wasn't safety or silence or the absence of pain. Home was this. The people who chose you. The love that survived the fire. And after 52 years, I'd finally found it. If this story touched your heart, drop a comment and tell me what it meant to you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. More stories like this are coming. Until next time, take care of yourselves. And remember, it's never too late to break the cycle. It's never too late to choose healing. It's never too late to serve justice with love. Thank you for being here. Every single one of you. The end.